Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Logan with West Desert Wheeler. In today's video, I want to break down the new 1.9 competition rig that I've picked up. I ended up trading my Axial Gladiator for this setup. So once I'm through with all the breakdown on what this rig has, you guys will have to let me know if you think it was worth trading an Axial Gladiator SCX 10.3. So sitting in front of us, I call it my 1.9 competition rig. Ironically, it has 2.2-inch wheels. That is completely fine according to Sorka rules, as long as the outside diameter of the tire matches whatever class you're going into. So I would consider this a class 2 build. This has 4.75-inch tall tires. The clearance on it though, my offset's a little too aggressive. It doesn't quite fit into class 2 rules, but the local competitions I go to don't strictly follow the exact Sorka rules. But if I ever went to a Sorka event, obviously I'd have to modify the rig a little bit. So what is this rig? It is an SCX 10.2 raw builder's kit, and it's also been modified and changed to sit on axial Capra axles. So it's got really wide, big portals on the front, super awesome, tons of clearance. And then on top of that, it's been set up to run a full droop suspension. So the chassis rides on the axles themselves, and any suspension travel you get is actually from a fully compressed shock moving away from the shock body. So as we lift it up, the only place you're getting suspension travel from is this shock in the rear that's moving away and extending, and this shock in the front is moving away and extending. Now, this thing does have quite a bit of good articulation on it, as any comp rig should. I mean, there is a limit, but this one's got no shortage of articulation to speak of. So I'm really liking how this performs. Up front, if we just pick the truck up, the front end does not droop as far under its own weight as the rear does. That's because it's got a stiffer spring in the front. So when I'm climbing something steep, I don't want that front end to unload and then transfer my center of gravity rearward, causing me to flip over backwards and not be able to climb as steep of obstacles. So let's go ahead and pull this body off. This body's pretty hammered. I'm looking to replace this in the near future with maybe a Proline cliffhanger body that just came out. Those are pretty cool. And I'm more of a Toyota guy than I am a Jeep guy, although I've owned both. So let's go ahead and pop this guy off. One of the main reasons I wanted to do this trade is because this one was equipped with the Hobbywing AXE motor and ESC combo, and it's got that FOC system, which basically means however much you move the trigger on your controller, that's how much wheel speed you're going to get. And say you pull in, it starts giving you some wheel speed as the truck encounters resistance to the wheels and tires, the ESC automatically ramps it up and gives it more power to keep your wheel speed consistent. So really cool system, obviously pretty fancy, not exactly a cheap setup. So I think that's where a lot of the value in this setup came from. So the raw builder's kit, right around 200 bucks. I'll have it linked down below. This one's been heavily modified from that. You can get axial Capra axles. The axle housings are pretty cheap. The front universal joints aren't exactly cheap. And then the portal setup where you got to get the gears and whatnot is another added cost in there to be considerate about. So when going over to Capra axles, it's probably best to find a complete set. It's going to be the cheapest way to go for your build. As you can see though, this Capra axle in the front has a axle mounted servo. And the original builder of this truck, I did not build this truck, like I say, I traded, just cut out the battery tray on the SCX 10.2 so that servo can slip right up in between the frame rails and it doesn't interfere with any of the front axle articulation. The servo drops in and out, no problem, and I made sure to set it up to where it doesn't even touch at this point. Now I did add a metal bracket sitting right here for the ESC to sit on, and the radio just barely snuck in there. Just double-sided taped those, and then I also left room for my 1300 milliamp 3S battery pack. So it's about as wide as that metal tray is. So it's a small battery pack, but it's a comp truck. That's kind of how I run it. It's the same packs that I run on my Axial Capra because the battery size is really limited in there. Outside of that, I'm trying to keep everything really low. I was planning on ditching the rock sliders at some point. That's why I mounted everything into the chassis. I will replace the rock sliders with something because I think it's necessary to have them. I just wanted to get my body first so I knew what to build on the rock sliders. So I've eliminated anything on my sliders at this point. The bottom side of these are just, it seems like they should just catch on absolutely everything. I want something smooth and metal for it to just glide over. 4-link in the rear, 4-link in the front, plastic shock towers, Desert Lizard shocks, Hobbywing. What's my KV on this guy? It's an AXE 540L, and this one is 2800 KV. This is my first experience with brushless. I like the wheel speed. I'm pretty sure it's running a pretty small pinion gear on there because it doesn't have a ton of wheel speed on there. Definitely enough to kind of give it a good blast of power, but overall not a fast truck, kind of medium compared to some of the other trucks I've had before. My Gladiator in first gear is pretty similar to what this is. It's got the BFG Predator compound Proline racing tires. So this is the soft sticky compound, and these are the Krawlers. These are really well scrubbed in. I've put plenty of miles on these. I kept these off of my rig in the trade. We kept our own wheels and tires. The chassis is not real rigid now that we've cut out most of the supports in between. The rear, there's not a whole lot going on the rear of that, just because you don't need anything back there. I wouldn't mind getting like a DSM recovery setup back here. Probably run it between the rear shock towers and then run the elastic out the front for a winch style setup for RC competitions. Sometimes you need one that would really help out, maybe save you from hitting a gate or two. But overall, guys, this thing's pretty standard. It's got an Eco Power Servo WP110T. I do have a 120T on my Capra, and it seems like that's a faster servo, or this one's just getting old and dying. I'm not sure, but it seems like my 120 definitely reacts faster. Neither of them are like ultra high torque. I do want to pick up like an NSDRC servo for this and see how that goes. Still running the plastic drive shafts. The transmission is an axial 3-gear transmission right out of the Raw Builders kit. Overall, the motor sits basically on the skid, and then I can't imagine that this is like a huge difference in overall weight as far as center of gravity compared to something like a 2-low transmission. Obviously, the 2-low is lower, but I don't know how much difference it's really going to make in a setup like this. They are cool. Down the road, I'd like to get one, but for now, I'm pretty happy with the 3-gear. It's got good gear reduction, especially going into portal axles. This truck is geared pretty dang low. Well, guys, for now, this is my setup. There are going to be some changes in the future. I may try and go to a narrower portal axle. My problem I would encounter is we've eliminated the 3-link on the front end of this truck. So to put an AR45 portal on there, it's got the offset pumpkin and it's 3-link only. So I don't know what to do there. I'll probably end up keeping the Capras, maybe get some Team Garage Hack wheels with super aggressive offset to pull your wheels and tires back in to make it more of a narrow footprint. But as is, it's super stable on side hills and can climb pretty dang good. It's climbed some stuff that none of my other RCs have pulled off before, so I'm real happy with the setup. I probably do want to get a real legit set of links for it. This is something the builder just kind of scrapped together on the front end. It needs more corrected length links. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the breakdown. Definitely let me know what you think of this style of video. I greatly appreciate you watching. Again, there's links down below to all the upgrades on this rig. If you saw anything on here you need more answers to, there will be links down below for all of the products. You can check out their descriptions or go ahead and ask me. I'll do my best to help you guys out. My name is Logan with West Desert Wheeler. We'll see you guys in the next one. Keep the rubber side down. Seems to be working just how I had it in mind. And then the crack just comes to a gradual end where you turn and drive straight up a wall, which is extremely steep. So we'll see how this truck does. Oh, getting a little sideways.